Day four. Day four of eating meat. Eating meat. But did you know that once I went vegan? Stay tuned. I have a confession. There was a time where I did a whole vegan thing. Let me explain. By the way, we're in day four, and I feel great. Weight was 288, 287.8, something like that. So not much loss, not as much as we've been having earlier this week, but again, the weight on the scale, the number is not important. It's how you feel. All right, so let's talk about my trip into veganism or vegetarian, I guess. So a while ago, I want to say it was 2013, 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. I had watched this documentary. I'm not even sure how I found it, but it was called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. I don't know if it was something I found on Facebook or what, but I watched it. It was on YouTube, I believe. And this guy named Joe Cross, I think, he was an Australian that was overweight, and he decided that he had money. The guy did well for himself. He decided to go on an all juice fast, and so what he did is he had a vegetable juicer, and the kind that he had was like $200, something like that. I got the $100 version, and he did this documentary during his venture. And one of the things he did is he came over to America, and during his journey of juicing, that's when he talked to all the different people. He talked about the addictive qualities of processed food and all that stuff. And he was doing a vegetable juice fast and doing it on the road. Now, on the road was in a car, able to utilize hotels and able to get into those small little fruit and vegetable stands and all that. But he did become friends with a truck driver, which is what was interesting to me. So he set up this truck driver and basically helped him lose a lot of weight by doing the juice fast. Now, the victim mentality mindset that I had back then said, well, it's no fair. Number one, Joe Cross had a lot of money. So I had a issue on that. And then here I am watching this thing. How can a truck driver do this while being on the road? Because what Joe Cross did is he's like, you know what? I'll pay your bills. I'll get you a cabin out for so many days, and you'll do nothing but juicing and exercise. And, well, guess what? That worked. But he had to take the addict, which is what food addiction is. He had to take the addict out of the situation. And I'm like, me with my big ego, I'm going to be like, I'm going to be the guy that proves you can do it on the road. It missed all the, convenience food and all that stuff. So I bought not one but two juicers. I bought one for the truck, and I bought one for the house. Now, I had this small one that I bought, and so for 1 week I did 2 meals a day of spinach and tomato juice, like B8. And I felt amazing. Well, we're going to go full all in on this thing. Meanwhile, Joe Cross's documentary talks about all these statistics about cancer, about this, and looking at it now, there's probably a lot of vegan propaganda in there. And he called it freebasing Mother Nature, which is what it felt like. So I got the big juicer, and he had recipes, and another friend went in, and I did a 60-day juice fast. Now, here's where it gets interesting, if you're interested at all. I felt amazing, and I thought it was the nutrients from the fruits and vegetables because, you're not having to chew this stuff, of course, liquid diet, kind of did its thing. Because you're taking the fiber out of, all the fruits and vegetables. And now the friend of mine that was doing it with me, he ended up getting kind of sick. He ended up getting sick for a couple of days because I don't know if he got some rotten fruit. But one thing I've learned since then is that you have a bigger chance of getting E. coli or some kind of contaminant from raw fruits and vegetables than you do meat. And a famous case was there was a young kid who died of, I want to say E. coli that he got from spinach from a Jack in the Box restaurant, but that's literally paraphrasing here. So, anyways, what I was actually doing, it wasn't the freebasing. I'm going to use air quotes a lot. I hope that annoys you. I hope that doesn't annoy you. If it does annoy you, then I can't control that. I thought it was because of the nutrients from freebasing Mother Nature. Now, I was getting more nutrients than I normally did in my SAD diet, Standard American Diet. And I was avoiding all processed foods, but I was also avoiding meat. And the first couple of weeks, man, I felt great. It was tough, but I got over it. And then after a month, you realize I didn't get hungry. My memory came back. The brain fog went away. I was remembering lyrics to songs that I hadn't listened to in years, and I was dreaming and thinking about things that I hadn't thought about in 10, 20, 15 years. I was feeling pretty good. But it was a lot of work. It was a ton of work. You go into Walmart, you buy up half their vegetables and fruits, and then now they're in your truck. And I had to learn how to store the fruits and vegetables because you can't just juice it all at once and then be good for the rest of the week. It's got to be juiced as you go. Maybe you can do the day of, the whole day's worth. And my truck looked like a fruit and vegetable stand exploded in it. It was difficult because you got to cut them in small pieces, and it was a lot of work. And then when I was home, same thing. I was never in the moment because I was constantly prepping my meals, and I thought, man, this, but I missed meat, so. But I was literally fighting food addiction as well. So there was a couple of moments where, like, I remember I was at a shipper and I was really hungry. I was just starving. And I ended up eating one chip from this bag that I bought from the vending machine, getting the taste because it was more of a craving than a hunger, and I threw it away. I crumbled it up, dumped it in the trash, so I wouldn't be tempted anymore. And like I said, there was a pretty good, I felt amazing. And what it wasn't the nutrients in the fruits and vegetables as much as the fact that I was actually in ketosis because of the fasting. And I use air quotes for that because I wasn't fat adapted. So it wasn't like a keto type fast. It was just I was going without food. I was able to go through the hunger pains, but every time I was drinking the juice, I was spiking my insulin, especially on the sweeter stuff. Like there was a dessert one made that was like basically sweet potatoes and pears and you know that kind of thing. And apples, oh my gosh, apples, you know, juicing apples. So you had like your main kale type mix, kale and spinach and cucumber, and then you had the fruit, you know, sweet potatoes, apple, pears, you know, that kind of thing. But then something started to happen. I started to do these cheats. I was getting roller dog hot dogs. My body was screaming. I didn't know it at the time. It was screaming for protein. Now, I ended up losing about 60 pounds on that fast. And I was going to do a full 90 days, but I couldn't make it because the company wanted me to start training again. I was a company driver at the time. And, well, I'm not going to subject my trainee to some reject that's, you know, trying to juice and fruits and vegetables in his truck with no room for anything, right? I had like 2 coolers going. It was just it was a mess. It was a lot of wasted food, a lot of wasted food. And and I got on this kick where it was like, you know, I found some vegan, you know, propaganda stuff and you know, and Joe Cross meant well, but you know, the science back then wasn't as clear as it is now. But what I was actually experiencing was the lack of brain fog because I wasn't eating any processed sugar. I wasn't eating, primarily not eating, you know, other than the natural carbs and fruits and the fruits, you know, I had rid myself of all processed food. But the cravings became too much when it came to meat, and I was eating roller hot dogs. I would have a hamburger with no bun on occasion, and you know, and I was secretive. I didn't tell anybody about it. Now, luckily, I wasn't on YouTube full time at that point. Well, by full time, I mean I didn't document every stupid thing I did. I did have a YouTube channel then, but you know, I didn't document any of the juicing stuff. And it was good because I didn't hold myself accountable. I mean, but for the most part, I felt really good. But then when I had to get off, man, did that weight come back? And then it came back with a vengeance. And I remember that there were parts of it that I felt good, but there were also parts of it where I was constantly craving. And so what was happening is, and what I later now realize is that I was spiking the insulin. I was getting no fiber, and so it was literally going through me. I was getting vitamins, but you know what? Water and vitamins probably would have done a little bit better because you need a carrier for the vegetables. You need or for the vitamins, right? The if you I'm all over the place, I know, and I'm not an expert. I am not an expert, okay? I'm just some schmuck that's trying some stuff out. That's all I am, okay? Anyways, your body is going to tell you what you need. My body was telling me, "Hey, this is great. We're not eating processed crap and you're fasting in a way. So we feel pretty good about that. But we need protein, dude." Or, you know, so I probably lost muscle. I probably became weaker. And and in juicing, you're not doing beans or anything, you know, any of the natural proteins, you know, that you might get from vegetables or whatever. So that was my foray into, like, I wasn't vegan, you know, but it was definitely a vegan approach, a raw vegan approach, because nothing went in cooked, right? And while I did lose 60 pounds, I lost muscle. I lost strength, and I lost confidence because losing that amount of weight to do something extreme does not feel good for you. In other words, I know people that have tried to tell me I need bariatric surgery back when I was close to 400 pounds. And I was like, you know what? That's the line. I'm not doing that because it doesn't solve the initial problem. I'm a food addict. I like eating, even when I'm not hungry. I mean, why else would you go to a buffet and get 4 plates of food when really one is enough to sustain you, right? And so I did not address those issues while fasting. It wasn't until I went to the keto, low carb thing that I started to address some of the issues. And these corporations, man, they'll put keto on that label. Oh, you're eating keto, man, it's great. Well, a half a loaf of bread is still a half a loaf of bread, whether it's keto friendly or not. You're still eating processed crap. So people like Dr. Ken Berry like to use the term proper human diet, which is predominantly meat, some vegetables, some fruits, but most of our fruit and vegetables now are basically bastard versions of their former selves. There's a reason why kale and broccoli and Brussels sprouts taste bitter. There's a reason for that. Here's what I've learned. Your body is going to crave. My body craved protein like crazy. And so, looking back, did I make a mistake with the juicing? No, nothing's really a mistake. But what I found was, why is it that if I have to lose weight, if I want to lose weight, if I want to feel better, I have to do something really extreme, you know? And it puts everybody out. Like the fruits and vegetables in the house put everybody out. Having it all in my truck, it just, you lived and eat and breathe juicing. It was ridiculous. And there's no way that this is sustainable for the rest of my life in order to keep me from being, 400 pounds, right? Were there some health benefits to it? Yes, but I probably did more damage and I end up gaining the weight plus more. I think I probably gained double of what I lost. That was when my weight increased big time. And that really does something to your spirit. It really does. And then I have complete strangers telling me that I need to get bariatric surgery and I know several people with bariatric surgery, and you know what? It didn't solve their problem because you're not addressing the root of the problem. Why do you overeat? Why do you eat the processed food? Okay, well, I like cake. Okay, well, what makes cake so likable? What makes cake so addictive? What chemicals are they putting into that cake to make them addictive? And that's what you have to address. That Joe Rogan interview I told you about on yesterday's video, and the book Metabolical that I've talked about explains it's all for profit. What is a heroin dealer when they want to get you hooked? They give you some freebies, they give you a discount because they want you coming back for more. Well, many of our food pyramid studies came from studies that were sponsored by the sugar companies. Look at what, and a lot of sugar companies were bought by the cigarette companies. They kind of trained each other on how to grab you, manipulate you, and make you addicted. And then not to mention a lot of these big corporations like Nestle, they also own a lot of stock in pharmaceuticals. So they get you on one end, they create the problem, and then they create the cure, again with air quotes. What's wrong with me? Meanwhile, was it like $4 trillion a year in pharmaceutical revenue? You think they're going to give that up? You think they want you to be healthy? You think they want to cure you? You think that they want to help you? No. It's all about cash cow. I've done videos on this channel about being cash cows to the people that want you unhealthy. And it's our pets too. Our pets are dealing with this as well, right? I'm gonna get some stats for pets. We are feeding our pets a non-natural diet, and lo and behold, these animals get sick. Well, we're getting ourselves sick. So when you look at a person who's obese, there's a lot of things that are going on. You have to find the root of why. Is it insulin reaction? Probably. Is it a food addiction? Is it emotional eating? Is it slow offing yourself type stuff? I can't say the word because YouTube and all. What is it? Is it the same as a person drinking knowing that they're hurting themselves? There are many large influencers that have passed away because of their unhealthy lifestyle. The point is that when that documentary came out, one of the positive things it did was it really opened my eyes to how unnatural our food really is. But I didn't put two and two together. I didn't think it was on purpose. I didn't think it was nefarious. And I believe it is. I believe it's on purpose. Because if you've got brain fog, if you're hooked up on dopamine and you're addicted to junk food or alcohol or you want to do nothing all day but eat and smoke weed, you are easily controlled. You become over emotional. You become very reactive, and emotional, reactive people are so easy to manipulate if you're a smart person. And by the way, there was a Fat and Sick and Nearly Dead Part 2, and guess what happened to the truck driver? He gained all of his weight back and then some. And that's when I knew that route was definitely not good. There are so many testimonials if you watch these carnivore and ketovore videos from other people. There's so many testimonials of people curing so many different things. Again, I'm not an expert. I've never went to medical school, and I'm not telling you what to do. But what I am saying is that our food is engineered to be addictive. And that's the idea of the carnivore diet. That's why the lion diet becomes more strict, because you're not putting any spices. You're not putting anything on that, on your food. And so therefore there's no triggers, right? The whole fake sugar thing, diet soda, that's just, you're not curing yourself of the triggers. You got to cure yourself of the triggers. What triggers you to overeat? What triggers you to get 4 plates at Golden Corral? What triggers you to eat 1 piece of cake, let alone 5 pieces of cake, right? What triggers you to not be able to give up pasta and bread, knowing that it's slowly killing you? I mean, I know people that are diabetic that still cannot give up that stuff. Oh, well, insulin will take care of it. Ozempic will take care of it. Man, what if those pharmaceutical companies go away, which they never will because they rule the world pretty much. But what if they went away? What would you do? What if there was some kind of EMP catastrophe and you can't get your medication? Now what? You got to take your life in your own hands, because people want to make money off of your illness. I'm not trying to sell you anything. But what I am, it gets depressing when I'm watching so many people on the wrong path that are hurting themselves, and there's not a damn thing I can do about it except tell you my story. So that's my story, man. I'm a food addict. I love eating. I love sugar. Even though I know it's out to kill me. Sugar feeds cancer. Plain and simple. There's plenty of evidence to support it. I've had several doctors, and including the person that did my DOT physical, when I showed her my weight loss, she was like, there's some truth to that. Of course there's truth to that. They feed you glucose before a PET scan because it coagulates where the tumors would be. Glucose, sugar. Because sugar's like, cancer cells are like, yeah, nom, nom, nom. Right? But you have to question, if we all know it's bad for us, how come it's so hard to get off of the food? Just like cigarettes. How many people do you see chain smoking? Man, I wish I could quit. Shouldn't that should make you angry that you can't quit? That should make you angry that that you're so addicted and so this stuff, you're a slave to this stuff. It's time for a rebellion. It's time to say enough is enough for you, for you, for you or your family and your family and for God. All right? Thanks for watching. Day 4 in the books. I'm going to go to a death metal show. Peace.